chef at Capriccio Osteria. I'd like to talk about pomegranates. Obviously we're here to showcase this amazing produce that's available at the moment. We're just in season and we had a fantastic menu that you put together last night to showcase this produce. Could we talk a little bit about, firstly, what's your experience been with pomegranates as a chef?
I guess my whole time with being cooking for almost 20 years, pomegranates in the menu has always been a little bit not as common, and I guess it's more of like the seeds and that's kind of what people tend to use on the menus. You never really use the juice or used to in different areas, different textures. To do this menu, I've had to think about different ways to use it, and it's made me more excited to use it in different ways other than just the seeds.
What was your thoughts about how to integrate the pomegranates into the menu? Like, I know you were saying to us that they're normally used as a textural component, but what was your idea how to showcase this produce?
I guess in the flavour combination, like they're kind of sweet, sour, and quite a balanced as far as taste goes. So to use those components in different areas was quite exciting. What
was the creative trigger? So when you're looking at this menu and you're thinking about trying to build the menu, a bit of progression through even from the start, from the focaccia, and even before that from the spritz that was served. What was your sort of creative trigger for that? What was the point that actually got you to build the menu and the ideas around it?
I guess it's more so a lot of Middle Eastern countries use pomegranates. Italians do have them, but it's not as common as in other countries. So to use this in a menu, I was like, okay, well, we're kind of going to do Italian style, but we're going to kind of take different things from other areas of other countries and kind of look at how can we make it a little bit different in the menus and kind of get people to realise a little bit it's a little bit different. But I guess using it through like all the different menu, like putting it on the top of the focaccia. When I said to Michele, what do you think about this? And he was like, oh, no, not on the focaccia. But I'm like, it's going to be amazing. Like, it's still going to be different. But I think it will work really well. And in this case, that's what we did.
And actually particularly balanced the sweetness, natural sweetness, with some acidity as well. So I thought you achieved that balance in a lot of the dishes. So were you sort of cognizant of that prior to sort of the menu going on? Did you look at each balance in each dish and how it would work out?
Yes, yeah. So the balance and obviously juicing them, reducing it to concentrate it, so it at least shines through in some things like the hummus, and just kind of giving that little bit of intensified in the dishes and amongst the ingredients, etc.
I thought it worked particularly well with the kingfish crudo, where you had that initial sweetness when you tasted it, and then when you had the acidity behind it, and it sort of balanced quite beautifully, I thought. So, your own staff in introducing produce to them, had they worked much with pomegranates at all?
No,
okay.
not as much as
and it was a learning experience for them as well?
Yes, yeah, very, very different. So, one of the guys has never pulled a pomegranate apart, so to actually show him how to do it, so he learned something new, which is good.
I know it's not bad. Also, you're taking the diners on a journey because they wouldn't have had a pomegranate degustation ever, and so you're there educating as well on where it from. So, and it was a very well received menu. Just talking also just the versatility of this produce, it was also featured in the spritz that you served at the start, and we had a pomegranate cello at the end. So it's very versatile, not only in the food context but in beverages. What were your thoughts there about how you were going to showcase it from a beverage perspective?
I guess putting it up against things like with the pomegranate cello, it was just an idea, and all that. At the start, we're like, is it going to work? Is it going to be more flavoursome like compared to a lemon? But it actually shone through quite well, considering if we maybe give it another week or so, it may have come through a little bit more. But as far as the beverages go, even with the spritz, comparing it to Prosecco, sometimes it can be a little bit quite strong, but with the acidity in it as well, and also a bit of the sweetness, it kind of shone through.
What I found was quite interesting was the rooms quite vibrant, and people were quite fascinated about pomegranates, you know, but it was good they were prepared to sort of put themselves in your hands to take them through that journey. So, you know, it's also about having fun, isn't it? So, and that was what I found in the room. So does that bring you great joy as a chef when you hear the room with a bit of vibrancy and energy?
Yeah, I do love to do different menus and degustations around products. It showcases it and it keeps it interesting, and to be able to do something with pomegranates, you know, it's very uncommon. Not a lot of people would be into degustation of just pomegranates, but it does, for me, I get excited, and of course it must bring something to the menu too, because it sees it in the customers when they dine at night as well.
Just looking through the menu last night, the lamb shoulder dish was a particular favourite with diners, and you mentioned hummus before. Talk about how you balance that dish out, because that was quite interesting. It was unctuous, but it also had a hummus which was a nice counterpoint, and it was, so just talk us through the construction of that dish.
I guess with the glaze, it's a little bit more sticky, sweet. It's almost like a pork rib, like American style. So that was the initial take on it. And now with pomegranates, it's a classic combination, and it's throughout a lot of countries as well, that they do use those two combinations. But also, as far as the hummus, I wanted to kind of just lift it just that little bit more, and that's what the pomegranate helped me do. But more on the sour level as opposed to the sticky sweetness from the lamb. So with those two combinations, that's pretty much what the pomegranate is.
So for the home chef, how would you recommend from a prep point of view? Firstly, just when you look at this the first time they've used it, what's the best way to prep it?
I guess actually getting a pomegranate would be a bit of a challenge for some people, because if you don't know how to do it, basically you instead of cutting it, which is what everyone thinks, straight through the middle, you actually take a little bit of the top off, and to create segments. And then initially you could peel them away, and then you could take the pomegranate kernels from inside.
So for the home chef, what would you recommend as some dishes to start off with, and then perhaps as they progress, some other dishes they could try?
I guess for the home cook to start to use a pomegranate, you could start off with doing like a basic salad, and then therefore you can move on to something like a ceviche, or like a carpaccio with a bit of the juice to help the acidity will help cook the fish. And from there you can turn it into like a braise, or you can even use it for glazing pork ribs. You could even do beef short ribs, just those general stickiness and sour components. Or you could use it in glazing. You could even try it with ham at Christmas time, or even such as just like with a piece of roast meat.
So the message is for the consumer: don't be scared. Go get your pomegranates and experiment and try new things with it, and start simple and then work your way through.
That's it.
Which leads me to my next question, which is about your journey, where you started. When did you first? What was the trigger to your passion for food? Can you talk us through how that evolved?
I have always enjoyed cooking from a young age, probably from about 12 years old. Always watching my mum. My mum was not so much a baker, but my grandmother was, so I guess I kind of took it from grandmother's side, from the baking and helping your mum in the kitchen. But I really, really wanted to do it, and I started off as just a casual chef, helping on the weekends when I was 13 and a half. So, and that kind of built, and then I just knew automatically this is what I wanted to do. And from 14 was when I started my apprenticeship. So I finished, I had to get a school exemption to get out, and then I've just been in the industry since.
And you've had the support, you found that you encouraged that when you were young?
Yes. My parents have always encouraged it, because they knew how much I loved it.
So originally from Perth, so how did you then take that journey forward? So which restaurants did you come through, and what was your steps through that?
I started off kind of working in a tavern for my first apprenticeship, and then I moved up to an Italian restaurant, And then from there, I went into fine dining, and that's when I really fell in love with cooking, because I really enjoyed those different ingredients and textures and everything on a plate. And from there, being in Perth, at that time, there wasn't a whole amount of restaurants. So I worked at all the top restaurants there, and then I came over to Sydney once to taste all the restaurants and eat out. And then I realised when I went back to Perth, I'm like, what am I going to do now? So, and then I just made the initial choice to come to Sydney within 2 weeks. That's how it all started, and I've been since.
And you went through Lucio's. What was that experience like?
Yes, I was at Lucio's for about 4.5 years. Just started there just to help in the kitchen, and then I ended up being the head chef, which was, at the time, that was my first head chef experience. And I knew at that time that I was ready, but it was a great experience. And moving on, and then I came to Capriccio after that.
The women in hospitality movement's gaining great momentum. How did you find that sort of coming into what was a traditionally male-dominated environment? I mean, how did you find your way through that?
I guess being in such an industry at such a young age as well, like I kind of built up a little bit of a tough shell. I've had to, but it wasn't easy at the start. But as you get more and more years and you move on, you gain a lot more respect. And times have changed a little bit. It's slowly changing. It's getting there.
Can you tell us, viewers who haven't been to this restaurant, what they could expect and what you want to achieve for your vision for this restaurant? So for someone who hasn't dined here, what would you say to them?
We're all about looking after the customer from food to floor, like the good chat we get. And like it's Italian hospitality, and that's what we really pride ourselves on. As far as food goes, we like to do things the modern way, but a traditional way, but very modern. As far as the dishes go, we like to put a twist on it, as we discussed earlier. It just keeps the diners a little bit more interested, but not going too crazy out of the traditional ways of cooking or using ingredients.
Excellent. Well, thank you for a lovely meal last night and for taking us on the journey through this amazing piece of produce. And as a chef, you must be excited by being challenged to use something throughout a menu that's different a little bit, and people learning about it. So you did an excellent job last night of showcasing this produce. So thank you for that. We look forward to talking again and sharing more of your food.